What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode number 5 of the Ohio Sports Radio Show podcast. It is Jared and Ian back again, ready to talk some Ohio sports with you guys. Ian, how you doing this week, man?
Living the dream, brother, like always. How you doing?
Doing well. Ready to talk some Ohio sports with you guys. Let's get into it. For those of you who may be new to the show, we start each show off with the segment we call Best and Worst. So, Ian, give me your best and worst of this past weekend, brother.
My best of the week, Kevin Love's Game 1 performance in the Eastern Conference NBA playoffs against the Pistons. Cavaliers took the first game 106-101. In the game, Love dropped 28 points, cleaned up on the boards with 13 of them. I'm sure we'll get more to it later, but absolutely great performance from Kevin Love. They needed that. My worst of the week, it's going to be all season long, it feels like, but this Reds bullpen, it's atrocious. I mean, it's really tough to find a silver lining in it.
They're absolutely terrible, driving me nuts, as you've seen in some of my blog posts. But my best and worst of the week, I have two best. One is just the start of playoff hockey and NBA. It's been awesome outside of a few games, but it's been fantastic having a game on every night. And also FC Cincinnati, although they lost their last game to Louisville City FC 3-2, they had a fantastic turnout at Nippert Stadium. 20,497 fans attended the game, which is not only the attendance record for a match at Nippert Stadium, but it's also a USL regular season record, which is a huge accomplishment for FC Cincinnati and only their second home game. And also only 4 of 10 MLS games last weekend had a higher crowd. Huge turnout. Fantastic job by FC Cincinnati and their fans. Average attendance last year in the USL was 3,369 a game. So FC Cincinnati already shattering that. And I'm repping my FC Cincinnati shirt right now. So absolutely fantastic, guys. Keep it up. Love soccer in Cincinnati. Moving on, we started a segment called Top 5 a while back, and it's been one of our favorites. So we're going to continue with that. It usually ties into something that's going on with pop culture. And one thing that's huge in pop culture right now, whether you're a fan of Game of Thrones or not, I'm sure you've heard that the season 6 premiere is this Sunday. I am a huge Game of Thrones fanny. I don't know if you are, but that led us to our top 5 for this week, which is favorite TV shows. Ian, let's start it off. Number 5, what is your 5th favorite TV show of all time?
Number 5 for me is the show that I always swore that I'd never get into. I just wasn't into the whole zombie fad, but I fell hard for The Walking Dead. Tune in every week. They keep me hooked, and I hate their long breaks. It seems like we get about 3 shows, and they're off for about 5 years, and then they come back and hook us again for more. So number 5 for me is The Walking Dead.
Just outside of my top 5. I know me and you, we text every week during The Walking Dead. We go nuts. We read into fan theories and what we think is going to happen. And this past season of The Walking Dead is arguably the best season of the show. It was electric, fantastic. I loved every minute of it, but it's just outside of my top 5. Number 5 for me is Arrested Development, a show that was way before its time, one of the best casts of all time, one of the funniest shows of all time. Absolutely hilarious. If you haven't seen the show, check it out on Netflix. Arrested Development, way before its time. They brought it back on Netflix, and I thought the new season was great. So number 5 for me is Arrested Development. Moving on, number 4 on our list of top 5 favorite TV shows of all time.
Number 4 for me is Frances and Claire Underwood's ascension into the White House. I'm talking about Netflix original House of Cards. Absolutely love this. Every time a season comes out, I binge watch it. I'm usually done after about 17 hours. And then I'm pretty pissed off at myself that I have nothing else to watch for another year. But House of Cards, number 4 for me.
Yeah, I haven't got into that yet. My fiance watched the first season and loved it and is trying to get me into it, and I have yet to get into it. But it's on my list for sure. Number 4 for me on this list is Seinfeld. Now, this is pretty high on the list. It could be number 1 on a lot of people's list, and it could arguably be that on mine. But it fell at number 4 here. I'm a huge Seinfeld fan, as is Ian. I think we're going to see that later in his list. Seinfeld, one of the funniest shows of all time. Larry David and Jerry Seinfeld together is just genius. Larry David's probably the funniest person to ever walk this earth. So Seinfeld, so many quotable scenes and lines from that show. It's absolutely hysterical. Number 4 for me on my list of top 5 favorite TV shows of all time is Seinfeld. Moving on, what's number 3?
Number 3 for me was a Starz original series, Spartacus. They had 4 seasons of it. It told the tale of Spartacus leading the slaves against the Roman Republic way back when. A lot of action, a lot of gladiators, a lot of blood, a lot of gore. Great, great show. All 4 seasons, but Spartacus comes in number 3 for me.
I never got into that one. But number 3 for me is Game of Thrones, the aforementioned Game of Thrones. I love this show, HBO original, one of the best shows I've ever watched in my entire life. It is phenomenal. Like, if you have not watched this, do yourself a favor, get HBO Go, sit down, and take the time to watch this show because it is unbelievably good. And I cannot wait for season 6 to start up this Sunday. Me and my fiance will be waiting patiently to watch the new episode on HBO Go. So number 3 for me on my list of top 5 favorite TV shows of all time is Game of Thrones. Moving on, let's hear your number 2, E.
Number 2, I'm heading to the electric city of Scranton, PA. I'm going to go with The Office. I never cared much for the show while it was on in its earlier seasons. I watched it a couple times, didn't think it was that funny. Caught it in syndication later on, and I picked up about the end of season 4, early season 5, and watched it the rest of the way through. But with Netflix the way it is, I've probably watched every episode at least 15 times. So The Office comes in at number 2 for me.
Oh, we'll get into The Office for me later. Number 2 for me on this list is Breaking Bad, AMC original, one of the best shows I've ever watched. It kept me on the edge of my seat the whole series. The end of the show was fantastic. The finale, the series finale, it was a great show. If you haven't watched it and you have Netflix, you're doing yourself a disservice if you haven't sat down and watched this show. It's one of the best shows in the history of television. The story of Walter White becoming one of the biggest pussies in the history of TV to one of the most badass characters of all time. Just love the show. Absolutely amazing. Well done to everyone who was involved with Breaking Bad. But that's number 2 on my list of top 5 favorite TV shows of all time. Moving on, our favorite TV show ever. Ian, what is your number 1, sir?
Before I give you my number 1, I got a question for you, Jared.
What's that?
Are you the master of your domain?
I knew you were going to say that.
Number 1 for me, the show about nothing gave me everything. I was raised on Seinfeld. I watched it every Thursday night with my dad growing up. Still watch it in syndication. I own all the box sets. Everything in life can resort back to Seinfeld. The other day, someone was handing me a book to look at, and they're like, I swear, it wasn't in the bathroom. And I'm like, so it's not been flagged at Brentano's. I mean, everything can resort back to Seinfeld in some way. Number 1 for me, top 5 favorite TV shows of all time. Number 1, Seinfeld.
Phenomenal show. Like I said earlier, it's on my list. Could be higher, but number 1 for me, like you mentioned earlier, Ian, on your list, The Office. The Office for me is the funniest show of all time. Michael Scott is the best character in the history of television. Everything about that show connects with me in so many ways. I quote that show with so many friends. I have friends where we don't even text each other. We just text each other quotes from The Office, and we die laughing all day. That show for me means so much. One of the best, funniest shows of all time, one of the best storylines of the show, the love interest, the comedy, everything. To see the characters' involvement throughout the show was amazing. So many quotable lines and so many great characters. So The Office for me, number 1, my favorite show of all time. And unfortunately, this top 5 list came and went so fast. And that's what she said, Ian. That's what she said. And that's how you do that, Ian. You drop a Seinfeld line on me, I drop an Office line right back on you. So that's our top 5 favorite TV show. That's our top 5 list of favorite TV shows all time. Sorry. Moving on, let's talk a little Reds baseball. Our Cincinnati Reds got off to a hot start. Started their season 5-1 after sweeping the Phillies and taking 2 out of 3 from the Pirates. They have since fallen off the wagon, getting swept by the Chicago Cubs, losing 2 of 3 to the Cardinals, which they should have won that series. And they've split with the Colorado Rockies after tonight's game on Tuesday, pulling off a win, even though J.J. Hoover tried to give this one up. Our Reds struggling right now, sitting at 7-7. So all in all, it's not bad. I mean, we're not predicting this team to go to the World Series, but this bullpen, like you mentioned earlier in your worst of, they have been terrible. Jumbo Diaz got optioned back down to AAA. He's looked terrible. Cingrani hasn't looked good. A lot of the starters haven't looked good. I mean, Stevenson's looked good in his 2 starts. Finnegan's looked phenomenal. Alfredo Simon's hurt right now. He looked terrible in his last start. The Reds pitching staff in general has been awful. Awful. Cincinnati, if you're hearing this Reds pitching staff has been terrible. However, one bright thing for the Reds right now is their bats have been pretty hot, actually. They're putting up runs. Zach Cozart has come out firing. Zach Cozart got another hit tonight. He's on a 9-game hitting streak right now. He's batting over 400 right now. Cozart has been phenomenal. Jay Bruce is swinging the bat well. Votto's starting to warm up a little bit. The Reds look pretty good on offense, but their pitching is atrocious.
Speaking of Zach Cozart, did you see that streak he had going? Did you hear about that?
Yeah.
44 straight swings making contact.
Yeah.
Not
I thought, my bad. I thought you were talking about the 9-game hitting streak. I was like, I just mentioned that. But yeah, oh my God, dude. The guy's been outrageous right now.
Yeah, and when they talked about, Brian Price said, I'm putting Billy Hamilton at the bottom of the lineup. He's going to have to earn his way up to the top to the leadoff spot. I thought, well, who do you put in leadoff? Because, Brandon can hit anywhere in that lineup. And Brandon's too valuable to use at leadoff because you need him to drive in runs lower in the lineup. And then they move Cozart there, and I'm like, Cozy coming off an injury. I'm not so sure. Brian Price did a phenomenal job with that. Great call, Brian. Cozart's he's done fantastic. Probably the hottest hitter on the team. Like you mentioned, there's a few bright spots. We got Finnegan, who's pitching great. Robert Stevenson has looked terrific in both the starts, especially tonight against the Rockies.
His stuff looked really good tonight. Really good. His fastball looked great tonight.
And they talked to him before the game, and, he's only 23 years old, and this is huge for someone that's 23, showing so much maturity. When he came into the league, when he came into the minors, everybody raved about his fastball. This guy throws 99, 98 on the gun every time. He's dialed it back down a bit. He's painting corners. He's not trying to overpower batters. He's trying to pitch. And tonight, if you go watch that game, he's painting corners with that fastball. He's coming inside. He's painting low and away. He's just doing a great job. Now with the bullpen, like you mentioned, Jumbo being optioned to AAA today. Jumbo has an excellent slider that he's been working on that just dies away from right-handed hitters. I mean, it just 1 minute it's there, the next minute it's in the dugout. And every batter swings at it. And he just loves going back to that fastball. I'm sorry, but the way the game works today, it doesn't matter who you are. It can be the worst hitter in the lineup. They can get that bat around on a 99-mile-an-hour fastball. We saw Chapman get hit. We've seen Chapman get banged up in the years past. And Hoover, he just doesn't have what it takes as a closer. And we talked about it last week with Brian Price when someone asked us, is he on the hot seat? It's discouraging seeing the play out of the bullpen and the pitching and whatnot. But what other option does this guy have? He has nothing. He has to send somebody out there. And, we talk about how he mismanages games. He does do that. But when it comes down to, who's he going to put in there, that's streaky, man. It's tough. You don't know who to go to.
Yeah, like I said last week, I don't put this all on Brian Price. I put a lot of the blame on Walt Jocketty. Jocketty backed this team into a corner, giving money to players that they like we've said in early shows of the Ohio Sports Radio show. The Reds were known for signing players to long-term huge deals after they had some huge accomplishment. Joey Votto wins the NL MVP. They signed him to a huge deal. They signed Brandon Phillips after Gold Gloves, whatever. Homer Bailey after his no-hitters. They signed Homer, which that money probably should have went – not probably, it should have went to Johnny Cueto. Just tons of money that the Reds have put into this team, into players that – you look at him, it's like, Votto is a huge signing. It's a great signing for the Reds. Obviously, he's a fantastic player. But, you look at what they could have done and the players they could have brought in. And he's backed this team into a corner, and Price has nobody. Like you said, who do you turn to in the bullpen? I mean, J.J. Hoover has proved time in and time out that he is not good enough to be a closer. He tried to give this one up. He tried to give the game up in St. Louis, the one game that they won out of the 3-game series. If Jay Bruce didn't hit that home run, it would have been a tie game. That home run ended up winning the game for him in that game against St. Louis. So Hoover comes in and gives up a home run almost every time he's coming in for a close. He's terrible. The Reds have no one else in the bullpen. So it's going to be a long year. And I know we got really high, and we had a lot of people sending in questions like, oh, you guys are such pessimists saying the Reds are going to lose this many games and whatnot. Well, now you're seeing how bad this bullpen is, and pitching's key to winning, and the Reds don't have it this year. But hopefully they can pull out some wins for us. And like I said, it's just all about the progression of these young players. And hopefully we can see these young players come in and just start getting big league games under their belt and just evolving. Like, if you look at like Duvall and Schiebler, those guys look good right now, man. I mean, just let them continue to evolve and get better. I mean, Cozart's still young. He's still got time to evolve and get better. You got Suarez, who's, I think, going to be a cornerstone of the Reds franchise in the future. He's a great player. And hopefully the Reds players can just continue to evolve, you know?
No, totally agree with you. Suarez, I believe, is only second in third base batting average behind Nolan Arenado from Colorado going into tonight. You know, he's, like you said, I agree. I think he's a cornerstone. He's only 23 or 24. Cozart's still young. You got that. You know what you're going to get from Phillips. You know what you're going to get from Votto. The offense is there. We just need the pitching to, we need the pitching to hold up and to win us some games. That'll come. Like you said, the progression, the development of these players, development of these young guys, let them get experience, let them see what it's like. And then in the future, I think we're going to be okay.
Yeah, I think it's a 3 to 4 year process for the Reds, this rebuilding process. I think we'll be back. I think we're going to have a very good team in 3 to 4 years. I mean, if our talent continues to evolve, I mean, you look at a player like Finnegan, the Reds got him for 2 months rental of Johnny Cueto, and he has proven in 2 games how good of a pitcher he is, and he's only going to get better as long as he stays healthy. But, I mean, you just look at these young players, and there's a lot of promise in this Reds franchise. It's only going to get better. We got a lot of good players in the minor leagues right now, and we got high picks in the draft that hopefully those players can end up being something big for the Reds, and hopefully we can make some more trades. Move some big contracts, and I think it's a 3 to 4 year rebuild for the Reds. But we'll be back. And hopefully, we'll be like the Astros, a team that's gonna contend every year. I mean, you look at that roster for the Astros, and they're good, man. So hopefully the Reds will be back. But let's move on. Let's talk a little NBA basketball. Cleveland Cavaliers defeated the Detroit Pistons 106-101 in Game 1 of the Eastern Conference first round. Cavs look good, but I thought the Pistons gave them a pretty good scare in that game. Thankfully, Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love showed up. Kyrie had 31 points, 6 assists, and 5 rebounds. And like you said earlier, Kevin Love had 28 points and 13 rebounds to go along with LeBron James's 22 points, 11 assists, and 6 rebounds. So Cavs look pretty good all around. The Pistons did give them a scare, though.
Yeah, Detroit shot 50% from the field, over 50% from threes. They knocked down 15 three-pointers. The tail of this game was turnovers. Detroit had 10 of them. Cavaliers capitalized and scored 19 points off those 10 turnovers. Cavaliers, on the other hand, only turned the ball over 4 times. Detroit was only able to get 2 points off that. I think these are going to be good competitive games. I don't think there's going to be, any blowouts in this series. Detroit's a good up-and-coming young team. Drummond's a force to be reckoned with down there. But the Cavs did what the Cavs need to do. You didn't see Love go down low once on offense. He only went down low on defense for rebounds, and he tore it up on the glass. Love stayed out on the perimeter. He shot the deep ball. He shot long-range twos. If they needed somebody down low to get the rebound, they had Tristan down there. They played well. Dellavedova came in, gave some great bench minutes. But like you said, Kyrie came out, put up the points that Kyrie normally puts up. LeBron's going to get his. And, if this team can mesh, together and play the ball that they need to play with the set roster that they have, they could cause some noise. This is only one game, but it's a reason to be a little bit excited in Cleveland. They followed a good game plan. They need Kevin Love to show up every night. They really do, and they need to stick with this game plan.
Yeah, like you said, LeBron's going to get his. I tweeted out after the game, the key to the Cavs winning a championship this year, it's not going to be LeBron because he's a superstar. He's always going to put up numbers, but it's Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love. They both have to come out and play well every night. They can't put up goose eggs. They can't put up like 8 points, things like that. They need double-digit points from these guys every night. Kevin Love is back to his old self, getting 28 points and 13 rebounds. That's an old Minnesota Timberwolves Kevin Love type game. He dominated the glass. I mean, Kevin Love was like a 20 rebound kind of guy every night. So to get Kev Love back going, he hit some big threes for the Cavs in that game too. I mean, threes that were like momentum swings. The place was rocking after he hit those. So he was huge, and obviously Kyrie was huge for him as well, dropping 31 points. And that's his game. He's a scorer. That's his game. We've said it all along. So if those two can come out and play well and put up numbers, the Cavs are going to be a force to be reckoned with in the playoffs. But if they don't, and it's all about LeBron, the team's not going to do well. The East is a joke. I said the Celtics would give them a scare or at least, stretch the series out with them, and that looks like nothing right now. The Celtics look terrible. Nobody in the East really looks good outside of the Heat. The Heat look pretty good, but the Heat were unconscious in their first game, and that's obviously not going to happen again. But I don't know if you saw this comment after the game. The Pistons, or it was actually an in-game interview. Pistons coach Stan Van Gundy said, "A couple of calls have upset our guys. They've got to understand LeBron's LeBron. They're not going to call offensive fouls on him. He gets to do whatever he wants. They've got to understand that." Van Gundy later backtracked on his statement, but was fined $25,000 by the league for his statement. What were your thoughts on this, E?
I mean, what he said was true. I mean, the stars aren't going to get called on that stuff, and LeBron has given more steps than anybody in the entire NBA. I rarely see LeBron get an offensive foul called on him. Stan knew what he was doing. Stan's been in the game long enough. All the years in Orlando, I think he realized what he said, and then he's like, I'm going to have to open up the pocketbook now. And he tried going back on it, but Stan knew what he was doing. He knew what he was doing all along, trying to get inside Cleveland's head. But he's got a good young squad there, and I believe he's also like the team president or something. So, I mean, he's jostling two different roles, and they're gonna be a force to be reckoned with for a long time. But yeah, what he said's true. LeBron's always going to get that call.
I love Stan Van Gundy. As you know, my parents live outside of Orlando, so every time I go down there, we usually go to Magic games. I grew up going to Magic games and stuff down there. Stan Van has been a good coach everywhere he's been. He took the Magic to the finals. I mean, that team, he took them to the finals with just basically Dwight Howard. But he knew exactly what he was doing when he said this. $25,000 to those guys, that's nothing. That's chump change. He's inside the refs' heads as well. I know you said he's inside the Cavs' heads. He's in the refs' heads now. So maybe they're going to be looking to make more calls on LeBron the next game. But I think he's done a fantastic job in Detroit. He's made huge trades to get like Tobias Harris there, good young players. He's building a good team in Detroit, and he's very, very smart, good basketball mind. He's very, very smart. But, what he said is absolutely true. Like you said, LeBron, but it's not just LeBron. Every major star in the league gets calls. Dirk, I'm a Mavericks guy. Dirk, he gets every call. KD, Westbrook, those guys get every call. It's just the way it is. The NBA is smart. They want to make money. They don't want all these fans coming to playoff games and paying all this money and see LeBron James foul out. Like, you don't want to see that in a game. That's just the way it is. It's unfortunate, but it's the way it is. So I thought the comment by Stan Van Gundy was pretty funny, and I think he knows exactly what he's doing. But, big win for the Cavs in Game 1. And Game 2 is on Wednesday night. Which is when you will be listening to this podcast. So it's actually today in Cleveland at 8 p.m. Cavs enter as a 10-point favorite, which is that's a huge deficit. And by the way, I did not say my worst of the week. As you know, I'm a Mavericks fan. My worst was my Mavericks losing a 38-point loss in Game 1 to OKC. terrible. They shot 29% from the field. But to segue back to the Cavs, they won in game 2, and they were a 14-point underdog, which is the biggest win by it's the biggest margin for an underdog to win by. So, they won by 1, and they were a 14-point underdog going into the game, and that's the first time that's ever happened. So Cavs on the other side, 10-point favorite to beat the Detroit Pistons in game 2. So, yeah. So a huge win for the Cavs. Hopefully they can keep rolling. I'd like to see them get one. I really would. Cleveland deserves it. Cleveland, their fans work hard, and they deserve it, definitely, especially for what that football team's put you through. And speaking of that football team, let's move on to the Cleveland Browns. Your Cleveland Brownies, a lot going on up there. They make it easy for us, man. Every week in, week out, we say it. Your Cleveland Browns, they keep the news stories going. And one thing that dropped, huge piece of news. Now, it's not about the Browns, but it does affect the Cleveland Browns. So last week, our podcast dropped on Wednesday, and I think it happened on Wednesday or Thursday of last week. The Tennessee Titans traded the number 1 overall pick in the upcoming 2016 NFL Draft to the Los Angeles Rams. The Titans sit the top selection along with their 4th-round pick number 113, and 6th-round pick number 177, in this year's draft to the Rams in exchange for Los Angeles's 1st-round pick, number 15, 2 second-round picks, number 43 and 45, and the 3rd-round pick, number 76. The Titans also will get the Rams' 1st and 3rd-round picks in 2017. So this is huge news for the Browns. The Browns have been courting either Carson Wentz or Jared Goff. That's the consensus of what people think. Now LA moves up to number 1, and it seems like they're going to take one of those guys. So it looks like it's going to affect the Browns. In today's news, I don't know if you saw this or not, Ian, sources have told ESPN's Adam Schefter that the Browns have been engaged in trade talks involving the number 2 overall pick, but are uncertain whether they will trade the coveted pick down. The Browns have been linked to both Wentz and Goff. Multiple teams, including the Philadelphia Eagles, have been identified as potential trade partners for the Browns. Cleveland's new director of football operations, Sashi Brown, said that Cleveland will take the player who, quote, gives us the best chance to win over the long term. Ian, tons of stuff going on with your Browns right now, even more than what I just said, but we'll get into that in a minute. What do you think about this, the trade happening with the Titans and the Rams? What do you think happens with the number 2 pick? Last week we said trade down. Do you still believe that?
I love the trade because as of about 8 o'clock on ProFootballRumor.com, the Browns and the Eagles are being linked to almost having a done deal for that 2 pick, and they are getting a king's ransom for it, just like the Titans did. The Browns would get the number 8 pick overall, which is the Eagles' 1st-round pick. Both their 3rd-round picks, 77 and 79 of this year's draft, and a 1st and 3rd-round pick in next year's draft.
That's what I'm talking about, man. That's
the offer. You take it and you run with it.
Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah. This, like we've said, week in and week out, this team has so many needs that it doesn't matter who you take. If you can get that many picks in the stockpile, hell yeah. Take that right away.
Let these analytical guys do their job. And the best way to do that is seeing all these players. Let them analyze the draft. Let them see, the guys that are going to come in here and give us the best, the most meaningful impact and be the most impactful players. And, the Browns have said since the end of the season, their number 1 priority was the draft. They said, we're going to be quiet when it comes to free agency. Draft is our number 1 priority. If they can get that deal to go through with the Eagles, it's game on in Cleveland. I'm not saying Super Bowl champions. What I'm saying is that's something to be excited about because you're stockpiling picks and you're stockpiling good picks. Because I don't think anybody that the Eagles take with that number 2 pick is going to propel them into the playoffs this year. So that first round pick next year that they would get, probably still going to be a good pick. Anytime you can get another 1st-round pick, you go for it. So, and they're only trading down 6 spots. So there's still going to be a lot of talent there, and they're getting 2 third-round picks for this year. Come on, it's a no-brainer. The Browns need to push for this. They need to keep going with this. Don't let these talks die. I hope they're true. Like I said, it came from a rumor site, but it's pretty heavy right now going on in the news, and I would love nothing more than the Browns to pull the trigger on this move.
Yeah, I mean that makes such logical sense because I think if Wentz is there, the Browns will take him. That's the only way I think they would keep that pick. However, I think the Rams are taking Wentz. I don't think they're taking Golf with that first pick. I mean, it makes sense. He's a California guy to take him, and they've said, "Oh, we don't know who we're taking." There is no chance you trade. You go all in, trade all those picks, and move up to number one without knowing who you're taking number one overall. There's 0% chance of that. I think Wentz is a better player than Golf. I don't know if he'll turn out to be a better pro. I'm not saying that. I think right now he's a better player. He's a better pick than what Golf is. So I think they'll take Wentz number one. If that's true, and the Eagles are offering you guys all these picks, if that phone rings, I would imagine Hugh picks it up in one ring. That is a no-brainer for the Browns and that organization to stockpile picks and be able to build their team through the draft, just like my Bengals have done, exactly like that. So if that's true, I don't even know who the Eagles would move up to get. Are they moving up to get Golf? I mean, they have Sam Bradford. I don't know who they're going at quarterback-wise. I know they've been linked with Zeke Elliott out of Ohio State at number 8, and I think he's still going to be on the board. But Zeke's stock has risen a lot. I mean, he was like a 23rd, 22nd pick before the Combine, and after the Combine, he moved up. Now he's top 10. They're saying he's the best running back they've seen since Adrian Peterson. So I don't know. That's weird that the Eagles would make that move. But if that is true, you guys have to take that right away. But more on your Cleveland Browns, Ian. Now, this guy, he's been kind of a pain in the ass for you guys. He's not with the Browns anymore, but until he signs with a new team, he forever will be the former Browns quarterback, Mr. Johnny Manziel. Seems like we have something new about Johnny every week. So last week, former Cleveland Browns quarterback Johnny Manziel was accused of trashing an L.A. house that he was renting. Manziel and his friends apparently caused $32,000 in damage. Apparently, the house was left with tons of booze, drugs, and the group apparently broke an expensive glass table and a bathroom door while leaving wine stains and cigarette burns in the carpet. On Tuesday morning, today, Johnny Manziel was dropped by his agent, Drew Rosenhaus. Manziel responded by saying, I'm hoping to take care of the issues in front of me right now so I can focus on what I have to do if I want to play in 2016, end quote. Number one, if you're dropped by Drew Rosenhaus, you are a piece of shit. This is the same guy that has Greg Hardy on his list of athletes. Rosenhaus will take anybody. All he cares about is money. He doesn't care about your image. All he cares about is making himself money. He has the worst of the worst guys in the league. Like I said, Greg Hardy is on this guy's list, and he is the first athlete that Drew Rosenhaus has ever dropped is Johnny Manziel. So that says something about Johnny. It seems like now, to me, Ian, Johnny is living a c'est la vie lifestyle. Like, fuck it, that's life. This is who I am. I party, man. I'm not going to stop for anybody. I mean, the dude is coming out of clubs, drunk, doing videos. He's on TMZ every week. He seems like he's trying to stay in the spotlight now, negatively.
Yeah, it's a disease, man, and he's embracing it. He's not doing anything to get rid of it. He's just, like you said, he's like, this is what I am. This is what I'm about. I'm going to keep doing this. But by the way, I'm trying to clean up my act, and I'm going to move forward. And I'm going to do what I need to do to get on the football field in 2016. But if you guys want, I heard about a party down the road. We can hit that up real quick. I just need to stop at the 7-Eleven and get some cigs.
Yeah, I sent you a picture of him in a ball pit, and he looks super coked out, super skinny, like insanely skinny. I mean, he's always obviously in shape, but he looks so skinny in that picture. I don't know if it's the angle or what. He looks terrible, man. I mean, it's sad to see him go down this path. Like I said, I hope he gets help. But unfortunately for the Browns, until he's signed with another team, which I don't think will happen personally, until he's signed with another team, he's always going to be the former Browns quarterback. But that poses a question. I just said I don't believe so. E, do you think Johnny Manziel will play in 2016?
Absolutely not.
What would you give it on a percentage chance?
Less than one.
Less than one. So you're still giving him a
Less than
chance.
1, greater than 0.
You're still giving him a chance.
Tony Romo's awful fragile.
That's true, but I think they're going to address quarterback needs in the draft. I'm going to say 0% chance. I don't think he plays. I think there's 0%. Tim Tebow is still out there. Tim Tebow will get a shot before Manziel does. That's my opinion on that. He's a fucking train wreck. So hopefully he gets help, but until he does, he's always going to be linked with your Brownies, unfortunately. But let's move on. Let's get out of Cleveland. Let's go to a winner. Actually, I know it's 7 in the playoff winner. My Cincinnati Bengals. So some news broke the day we released our last podcast, and it's been a week now, but it's a huge move for the Bengals. They exercised the 5th-year option on tight end Tyler Eifert, keeping him under contract in Cincinnati until 2017. Totally expected. But huge move by my Bengals. Eifert was huge last year. He had 52 receptions for 615 yards and 13 touchdowns, which is the most ever touchdowns in a season by a Bengals tight end. Eifert, monster. Love the option until the Bengals can sign him long-term to keep him here under contract. Also, some other news broke. Andy Dalton's thumb has complete mobility and is completely 100% now, and he's back in voluntary OTA, so that's huge for Andy. My boy, you guys know I'm a huge Dalton fan. Love to see him back. Bengals wide receiver coach came out today and told ESPN he did a sit-down interview. He said the Bengals are looking for a wide receiver in the draft that, quote, is better than A.J. Green. Don't know if they'll find that. I know he's just saying that he wants someone to pair with A.J., and it's probably a statement to keep pushing A.J. to be better. No one that they draft will be better than A.J. Green is, but I love it. I love that they're looking to bolster that offense. And that leads us to the question, what will the Bengals do with the 24th overall pick? So I've done a few mock drafts. I've had the Bengals taking a defensive end. I've had them taking a linebacker. I'm finally coming to the dark side. I'm going to have the Bengals taking a wide receiver. That's where it looks like it's going. I would say I would give it about a 90% chance the Bengals take a wide receiver in the first round. In my opinion, I don't know who will be on the board still. I'd like to have them get that Josh Doctson out of TCU, Corey Coleman out of Baylor, Will Fuller. I've seen him going from Notre Dame to the Bengals. I don't know about him a lot, but I like Doctson. I like Coleman. I've seen Laquan Treadwell fall into the Bengals, which would be nice, but he ran a super slow 40. I don't know. I have no clue. It looks like they're going to take a wide receiver. I hope Josh Doctson from TCU falls. You got the TCU connection between him and Andy, so that'd be nice. And hopefully we can get another wide receiver that continues to push A.J. Green. I don't know. We'll see. But some more news broke in the NFL. It involves both of our teams, Ian. And what is that? NFL schedules for 2016 were released last week. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the schedules. We're going to predict each game for each team and see how the season shakes out. So let's start with your Brownies, Week 1. At Philadelphia against the Eagles, what do you got here? Win or loss?
0-1, losing to the Eagles.
0-1 in the first game. I'm going to go loss as well in that one. I think the Eagles that's a tough place to go and win, and the Eagles, they had a pretty good team last year, so I'm going loss in that one. Week 2, at home against the Baltimore Ravens. Who do you got in this one?
0-2, Ravens.
Same. I'm taking the Ravens in this one as well. Browns starting off 0-2. Let's go week 3 at Miami.
I see no reason to change gears. 0-3, lose to the Dolphins.
I agree. We're going to go 0-3 in this one. Dolphins at home are going to be tough to beat, so I'm going to take the Dolphins. Week 4 at Washington.
Kirk Cousins is too tough. 0-4.
I agree. 0-4. The Washington's going to be too tough for him. So I agree with you. So 0-4 to start the season. Week 5 at home. Welcome back your former coach, Bill Belichick, and the Patriots.
On to New England. 0-5, Patriots.
No-brainer. Patriots destroy them in week 5. On to week 6 at Tennessee.
0-6, Titans.
Yeah, they added DeMarco Murray, so it's going to be tough to stop with nobody on your defense. I'm going to take the Titans in this one as well. Week 7, at Cincinnati, taking on my Bengals.
0-7.
I was going to say, don't do it. Don't start here. Yeah, I'm going to take my Bengals in this one as well. I think that's a loss for the Browns. Week 8, at home against the New York Jets.
0-8.
0-8.
Jets, Jets.
I agree. 0-8 to start the season. It's going to be a long few shows for the Ohio Sports Radio Show and Ian and all of our Browns fans, but I think the Jets get this one done as well. 0-8 to start the season. Let's move on to Week 9. We got the Cowboys coming to town, to Cleveland. Who you got, E?
That's my birthday. 0-9. Cowboys take them down.
Hell of a birthday present. Thank you, Browns, for Ian in advance. I'm taking the Cowboys in this one as well. Romo will be back healthy, maybe. I don't know. He could be out again with the clavicle, but we'll see. Moving on to Week 10, your lone primetime game, Thursday Night Football against the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore. E, who do you have in this one?
Screw you, Armadale, but the Ravens still come out on top.
I agree. 0-10 to start the season. And do you want to make a bet on a color rush jersey by the Browns? What do you think it's going to be?
Where's that game at?
It's in Baltimore. So you guys will be wearing your whites.
It'll be all orange.
Won't you guys be – don't they wear white on the road?
They do, but I think Baltimore's going to go some, like, crazy purple.
Though I think they'll go like the Maryland flag, like that, something crazy stupid like that. But it'll have purple and Baltimore. I don't know, whatever. But I think they're going to lose. I'm going to guess all of white or all white. I don't know. All white and maybe like orange gloves and orange shoes. I don't know. We're getting off topic here. Week 11 at home against the Steelers.
And why start now? 0-11. Steelers taken down.
I agree. Hopefully you guys kick their ass. But I'm going to say the Steelers win this one. Week 12 at home against the New York Football Giants.
Week 12 is where we get the win. The Browns take down the Giants.
Wow, I'm going to say a loss in this one as well. I think they start off the season 0-12. Week 13 is a bye week. Let's move on to Week 14. You guys are at home against my Bengals.
Loss.
I think so as well. Let's move on. Week 15 at Buffalo, taking on the Bills.
I know how much you like those Ryan brothers, so I'm going to go ahead and go with Buffalo.
Week 15, your Cleveland Browns pull off the upset. Fuck Rex Ryan and his fat-ass ugly brother. I'm taking your Cleveland Browns to upset the Buffalo Bills Week 15. Moving on to Week 16, baby. You guys are welcoming home the San Diego Chargers. Who are you taking in this one?
Are there any Ryan brothers involved in this one?
There's not. I think all their fat asses are in Buffalo.
Going with the Chargers.
Yeah, I'm taking the Chargers as well. So for me, at this point, you guys are 1-15 heading into the last game. Locked up the number 1 overall pick. At this point, I'm going to assume you guys are in Pittsburgh, final week of the season. Who are you taking in this one?
With so much on the line in the final week of the season, the Browns are going to go into that game against the Steelers, and they are going to get demolished. Then finish the season 1-15.
I agree. 1-15. You're going to lose to the Steelers in this one. I'd like to hope that you guys beat them, but I don't see it happening. So the Browns, we both have them finishing 1-15 next season. Hopefully not. Browns fans out there, this is hypothetical. Hopefully you guys can win a bunch of games, but we will see. If not, you guys will have more draft picks. I don't know. So I hope not. I hope you guys can win some games, but it doesn't look too good for you guys according to the OSR guys. Moving on to my Cincinnati Bengals, Week 1 at New York taking on the Jets. Who do you have in this one?
I think that's going to be a really good game. Jets, Todd Bowles in charge last year. They really turned their franchise around. They've lost some talent, though, in free agency. I'm not even sure they've re-signed Ryan Fitzpatrick yet, have they?
They have not, no.
Regardless, I think it's going to be the Bengals in Week 1.
I like my Bengals against the Jets in Week 1 as well. I think it's going to be a good game. I'm going to take the Bengals in that one. Moving on, Week 2 at Pittsburgh. Of course, the NFL would schedule Pittsburgh when Vontaze Burfict is out of game. Of course they would. Knew it. Happens every year. Who you got in this one?
I think Pittsburgh's going to get you guys in the second week.
I agree. I'm going to take the Steelers in this one. In Pittsburgh, the Bengals have struggled there. Usually we win in Pittsburgh and lose at home for some reason, but I'm going to take the Steelers in this one. Hopefully not. Hopefully the Bengals can start off like they did last season, but I'm going to put my, outsider looking in hat on, and I'm going to take the Steelers. Week 3, they're welcoming home the defending Super Bowl champions, the Denver Broncos. Ian, who do you got in this one?
Going with the Bengals.
I'm going with the Bengals as well in this one. The Broncos are decimated, and they got Mark Sanchez as their quarterback, and he fucking sucks. So week 4, moving on. Got the Dolphins coming to town. Who are you taking in this one?
If it was in Miami, I think it'd be a little bit more of a harder game to choose, but I'm going with the Bengals at home.
Yeah, Thursday night football, by the way, in Cincinnati, week 4 against the Dolphins. I'm going to take my Bengals in that one. Color rush jerseys. I've seen a lot of people saying white and black uniforms. That would be stupid. My guess is they'll be like all black, all orange, something like that. I don't know. We'll see. Bengals don't typically like to go off from off of their traditional look. So I'm gonna say they win in this one though. Next game, week 5, they're in Dallas taking on the Cowboys. Who do you have in this one?
Tony Romo will have broken his back by then. I'm going Bengals.
Carlos Dunlap, 10 sacks. Tony Romo puts him out for the year. I'm taking my Bengals on the road against Dallas. Next game, we have the Bengals heading to Foxborough, taking on the Patriots. Who do you have in this one?
Foxborough is a fortress, man. I got to go Patriots on this one.
I think the Bengals are 0-10 in their last 10 games in Foxborough, so I'm going to take the Patriots in this one as well. Hopefully not. Hopefully Dunlap can get to Tom Brady and rough him up a little bit, but I'm going to take the Pats in this one. Week 7, they're welcoming to Cincinnati your Cleveland Browns. Who do you have in this one?
Bengals, as much as it pains me to say that.
Yeah, we already stated that. I guess I could have done that. I'm going to take the Bengals in this one as well. Week 8, this game will be in London, England, 9:30 a.m. card. Love it. My Bengals taking on the Washington Redskins. Who do you have in this one?
I think that's going to be an all-out brawl. I think it's going to be a shootout. I think both defenses are going to be absent in that game, but I think the Bengals are going to outdo them right at the end. I'm looking at maybe a 42-35 game, but I'm going with Bengals.
Wow, yeah, if this game was in Cincinnati, it should be a home game for the Bengals. It is, technically. If it was in Cincinnati, I would take the Bengals 100% of the time. I'm still taking them to beat the Redskins. However, I think it's going to be a really close game simply because of all the travel. But hopefully the Bengals can grow their market in London. I know we have a lot of I have a couple friends in London that are huge Bengals fans, and they got a good following for the Who Dey Nation there. So hopefully my Bengals can pull off a win in London, but I have them beating the Redskins. Week 9, we got a bye. Week 10, we got I think it's Monday Night Football, 8:30 p.m. against the New York Giants in New York. Who do you have in this one?
Bengals win in prime time.
It's going to be a tough game. I'm going to take them. I'm going to take them in New York because I don't think the Giants are that good. They did get better in the offseason, bringing in all those players, but I still think the Bengals are better. We got Week 11. The Bengals welcoming fat-ass Rex Ryan's Buffalo Bills. Who do you got in this one?
This is a tough one for me, Jared. I mean, just, player-wise, I want to go Cincinnati. Obviously, I'd go Cincinnati if it was just sheer athletic ability. But with Rex Ryan's coaching, I mean, it's top-notch, top caliber. I mean, I put him up there with the greats like Lombardi and Chuck Noll and Tom Landry.
You're making me sick.
All right, I'll go with the Bengals.
Fuck Rex Ryan. Fuck his fat-ass brother. The Bengals win by a landslide, 100-0. Bengals win. Week 12, Bengals at Baltimore. Who do you have in this one?
Going Bengals.
I'm going Ravens in this one at Baltimore. I'm going to think that they're going to be back to their normal self and not banged up. I'm going to take them in a close shoot-it-out game. They're usually like 9-6. I'm going to take the Ravens in this one because I have a theory here. But moving on, Week 13, Bengals, Eagles, and Cincinnati. Who do you have in this one?
I'll go Bengals in this one as well.
Yep, I think the Eagles are going to suck. Sam Bradford sucks. I'm taking the Bengals. Week 14 in Cleveland. Who do you have? You got the Bengals, obviously. We stated that last time. I got the Bengals as well. Moving on. Week 15. This is Sunday Night Football against the Steelers in Cincinnati. Who do you have in this one?
I'll go Bengals in this one. I think this is going to be a good one, but Bengals get them at home this time.
It's a tough game. It's a tough game. I'm going to take the Bengals as well at home against the Steelers. Just because they're at home, I think it's going to be a good game. Week 16, another primetime game. We have Thursday night football against the Texans in Houston. Who do you have in this one? You there, Ian? Did we lose Ian? Did we lose you? I think we lost Ian.
No, we're good. We're good. What was the matchup again? I'm sorry, it lagged on me.
Week 16, Thursday night football in Houston, taking on the Texans.
Bengals all the way. Texans are a mess right now. Dalton gets back at J.J. Watt for that comment from last season.
I'm going to take the Texans in this one. The Bengals always struggle with them. I don't know why, but I'm going to take the Texans. Week 17, finishing up the season at home against Baltimore. Who do you have?
Bengals, 14-2.
I got the Bengals as well. You got them going 14-2. I got them going 12-4, making the playoffs, winning the AFC North, hopefully getting their first playoff win. But that's our schedules. That's our predictions. Hopefully both teams go undefeated, but I don't think that'll happen. Actually, they can't go undefeated because they play each other. Hopefully the Bengals go undefeated and the Browns lose 2 games. But moving on, we have a new segment on Ohio Sports Radio show that we're going to call OSR Mailbag. This is fan-submitted questions via our Facebook and our Twitter. So let's get into it. Ian, are you ready for OSR Mailbag?
Let's do it, brother.
All right, first question by our Twitter coming from Caleb Bach. He wants to know, Caleb Bach at CBach09 on Twitter. He wants to know thoughts on if we are going to be seeing FC Cincinnati making its way to the MLS in the next few years and splitting Ohio with the Columbus Crew. I personally think so. They need to build their own stadium first. However, the attendance is phenomenal. It's only going to continue to rise, in my opinion. I'd like to see it. I love Cincinnati, and I'd love to see an MLS team in Cincinnati. Ian, what are your thoughts on that?
It's going to take some time, but I mean, just from seeing the attendance, these first 2 home games, I don't think it's going to tail off anytime soon. America's changing. All of our youth is playing soccer now, which I absolutely love. I think it's phenomenal. It's a sport that I grew up playing. I love the sport. And I think kids are getting their parents to say, hey, let's go do something that's affordable, that's cheap. It's something that the city of Cincinnati has that they can root for when the Bengals aren't in session, because we've got nothing to root for down at the ballpark right now. And, it's affordable to go to these games. The tickets aren't bad. You can get the whole family in for less than $100. And, it's not bad. And, there's not a bad seat at Nippert either. So I think you're going to see this translate into an MLS franchise, but it's going to take some time. Like you mentioned, there's going to need to be a new stadium built and whatnot.
Yeah, another FC Cincinnati question we have comes via our Facebook page from Mr. Alex Karras, an old friend of the show. Alex wants to know, do you think FC Cincinnati can keep the crazy attendance numbers up even if the team starts to lose, or do you think Cincinnatians want an MLS team so they will show up and keep numbers up for the push to MLS regardless of how they play? I think they're going to continue to show up. Cincinnati fans have showed that they're loyal. I mean, you look at the Bengals, the 90s, and we still have fans. I'm still a diehard fan, and I lived through that. We're still Reds fans, and we still talk about it, even though the Red Stadium is a fucking joke right now. They have about 1,000 people at each game. I still think they're going to show up. Soccer's on the rise in America, and definitely in Cincinnati. I don't think there's any lack of support in Southwest Ohio and Kentucky. So I think it continues to rise, Alex. Thank you for the question. Caleb, thank you for the question as well, sir. Let's move on. Let's talk a couple Reds questions. Kyle Roberts wants to know, do we think the Reds will make the postseason? No. Fuck no, I don't. Ian, do you?
Hell no.
Okay. Next up from Kyle, he has another question. He says, thoughts on Suarez being the new third baseman, and what do we think about trading Frazier? He says he likes Suarez and he thinks he's a good option for the Reds.
You mentioned earlier that he's going to be a cornerstone in this offense and for this team for years, and I think he is. I saw a stat last week that in his first 103 games with the Reds, I forget how many home runs or whatnot, but just his offensive stats, through his year, I'm sorry, I'm stumbling with words, but this point in his career, up to the age of 23 or 24, and where he's at compared to where Frazier was at. Frazier was in Double-A, not hitting a lick. Suarez is above the curve, and I don't think we're going to see any letdown from Suarez. Still a little shaky on defense, but the guy, he's not playing in his natural position. Really couldn't tell you what his natural position is because he was shaky at short also. But, I think he's going to be a mainstay for the Reds. I think we're going to see him for years to come. Big fan of Eugenio.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think he's a fantastic player. He's going to be a cornerstone of this this Reds franchise for years to come. And, it sucks that we had to trade Frazier. He was a great player. He's great in the community, but it had to be done. We couldn't afford him, and we weren't going to be able to re-sign him. So I like the things they got for Frazier, and I like Suarez a lot. So thank you for those questions, Kyle. We appreciate it. We have another Reds question, another one from Alex Kakaris. He wants to know, are there any positives about the Reds bullpen, Ian? We have a bullpen. That is like a literal we have a literal bullpen where the guys can throw balls in Cincinnati, and that's pretty nice. Our bullpen is actually really nice out in the outfield if you've ever had seats out there. But as for the guys in it, they're pretty terrible.
Yeah, Cingrani from time to time, he'll show you glimpses of greatness, but then he just gets wild. Caleb Cotham hasn't looked bad so far, but, give it time. He's young. He's going to need to get knocked around a few times, build himself back up. Perfect place to do that is in that Cincinnati bullpen.
Oh, my God, yeah. Another baseball question. This time we're going up north to Cleveland from Mr. Dan Combs. He wants to know, what do you guys think of Jason Kipnis' hot start? He's on an all-star pace. What do you think, E?
Kipnis is off to a nice start, but he's never played a full season. Always has that injury bug bite him. Possible all-star, yeah, with every team having to have a representative. The second base is so loaded in the AL. You got guys like Kinsler, Altuve, Pedroia, Cano. But I like Kip. Kip's a good ball player. Wish him nothing but the best up there, and he's off to a hot start. So hopefully he can stay healthy.
Yeah, going into Tuesday night's game, he led the Indians in hits, doubles, and weighted runs created. So he's a power hitting second baseman, which is pretty rare. He's on my fantasy team, so I hope he does fantastic. I know you said that each team has one representative. It could be Kipnis, but Carlos Carrasco, their starting pitcher, is looking phenomenal. Who's also on my fantasy team. He's looking lights out right now for them, going deep into games. He's 2-0 to start the season. So I don't know. I think he's off to a good start, and the Indians need that. That franchise definitely needs that. So Dan, thank you for the question, brother. We appreciate that. Moving on, let's talk a little Bengals football. Jake Parrish wants to know 3 players you think would best fit the Bengals' system in the upcoming draft, and do you think the NFL got back at Cincinnati for last year's on-field conduct in regards to this year's schedule? I'll take the lead on this one. Ian is not really a Bengals fan, so I'll answer these, Jake. 3 players I think would best fit in the Bengals system. I said it earlier. I like Josh Doxson. I hope they get him. Corey Coleman would be a good pick. Any wide receiver, any interior defensive lineman for me would be good for the Bengals. Those are 2 huge needs. As for the schedule, I don't really see the gripe with the schedule. According to the guys who rank the schedules, the Bengals have the 4th easiest schedule in the league, according to wins and losses from last season. So I don't really think it's a tough schedule for them. I still think they'll go 13-3, 12-4, something like that. I don't think they miss the playoffs. Hopefully not. I think it's actually a fairly easy schedule for the Bengals. So hopefully they win at least 12. Hopefully they go undefeated. But I don't think the schedule's that bad, Jake. But I appreciate that. Appreciate the question, man. Moving on. We got one more question from – let's see if I can find it from – actually, we got another question from Dean Lanier, another Bengals question. Mr. Dean Lanier wants to know, how explosive would the Bengals offense be if Chad Johnson would have stayed in Cincinnati? I don't think Ocho Cinco is I don't think he's playing anymore. I don't really know, Dean. Ocho, I loved him in Cincinnati, but I also hated him at the same time. He drove me ballistic ran his mouth too much. I love Chad, but I think that era is way behind us, and let's move on. We got great wide receivers. Let's focus on those guys. Another football question we got from Dean Lanier. He wants to know which OSU player do the Bengals take if available, Von Bell, Eli Apple, or Darren Lee? I think Lee's got to be the answer, but I think the player that will most likely be there, Dean, is Braxton Miller. So, yeah, there's that one. One final question. What kind of impact do you think Kane Broome, new UC transfer, will have on UC basketball? Now, I'm not a UC basketball guy. Ian's not, but our UC basketball guys, they love it. So, Jake Parrish, thank you for the question. Yeah, I think it's going to be a good signing for him. I don't know. I hope. So we're not UC basketball guys, but we hope. But that's OSR mailbag. Ran a little long there. Ian's having technical difficulties, so ran a little long there. But that's our show. We end each show with a bold prediction for each show. Ian, what's your bold prediction, brother?
By this time next week, the Cavaliers will have swept the Detroit Pistons and will move on to the second round of the NBA playoffs.
Awesome. My bold prediction is FC Cincinnati's attendance will continue to rise throughout the season. That's my bold prediction, and that's the show. That's episode 5 of the Ohio Sports Radio Show. Thank you to everyone who continues to help us out. If you haven't already, subscribe to our podcast on iTunes. Check it out, Ohio Sports Radio Show in the search bar. It's awesome. If you can subscribe and download the episodes, we'd really appreciate it. Also, check us out on Stitcher if you're an Android user. We're on there. We will be on Google Play Music. It's rolling out. They're rolling out podcasts within the next few days. Actually, we just got an update on that. So check that out. Continue to check that out. If you're an Android user, that's an awesome market. It's awesome. So it's up there with iTunes for me. So check that out. Ohio Sports Radio Show on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play Music. Follow us on Twitter at Ohio Sports Radio and Instagram at Ohio Sports Radio. Like our page on Facebook, Ohio Sports Radio, and check out our website, ohsportsradio.com, updating it daily with new Ohio sports stories. Thank you again to everyone who sent in questions, and you guys are awesome. Thank you to everyone who subscribed to our show. Continue to subscribe. Tell your friends and family. It would really help us out. Ian, do you got anything else to add, brother?
Go Reds.
That's right, baby. Go Reds, and fuck the Cardinals, and hopefully the Reds can continue to win. But that's it. That's episode number 5 of the Ohio Sports Radio Show. We will see you guys again on the other side. Episode number 6 of the Ohio Sports Radio Show.